January 2022, northwestern Montana. The pine-covered white ridges of the Rocky Mountains stand silent. Here, at the foot of the forest trails, live Jason and Emily Dawson, a young family who moved from the city in search of peace and quiet. Along with them is their son Caleb. He is only 7 months old. That day, the family was returning home after a weekend spent at the hunting cabin Jason had rented for the New Year's holidays. Everything seemed perfect. Snowy woods, hot cocoa, the sound of a crackling fireplace. But on the way back, a blizzard broke out. A blizzard that literally wiped out the road. To avoid going back over the pass, where avalanches are common, Jason decides to take the old forest road, narrow but straight. He was sure their SUV could handle it. The road took them deep into the wilderness. At first, it was quiet, just snow and trees. But suddenly, there was a rattle. The car began to slide sideways, and the next second, the rear wheels fell into a deep snowdrift. They were stuck. Jason went outside to shovel the snow. Emily stayed in the cabin, comforting Caleb, who was starting to get restless from the cold and dark. She stroked his cheek, whispering, "Daddy will be back soon." But neither of them knew that they were already being watched. And it wasn't people. It had been about half an hour. Jason tried unsuccessfully to shovel the snow and pull the car out. It was getting colder by the minute, and the snow was getting thicker. He looked more and more at the woods. It felt like there was someone behind the trees. But every time he stopped and listened, he heard only the rustle of twigs and the howling of the wind. In the car, Caleb began to cry. Emily cradled him against her, trying to keep him warm. She pulled out a blanket and a bottle, but her son didn't want to eat or sleep. He sensed danger. His mother told him everything was fine, but she didn't believe it herself. She was worried about the same thing Jason was, an unexplained presence. And then the first sound, a low, almost infrasonic growl. It came from behind the car, on the other side of Jason. He turned around. Shadows flickered in the darkness. Big ones, on 4 legs.
"Get in the car!"
shouted Emily from inside, but it was too late. Wolves came out of the forest. 3 at first, then 2 more. They moved not like predators, but like scouts. Cautious, calm. One of them came closer. Jason froze, not knowing whether to defend himself or not. The wolves weren't attacking. They were staring right at Emily and Caleb through the glass. Suddenly, something happened that no one expected. One wolf came around the back of the car. Jason ran to stop him. At that moment, the door swung open, and Caleb was gone. It's been months. To the world, it was as if Caleb had disappeared. His picture hung in the trees, appeared on the news, but the search had long since stopped. And in the heart of wild Montana, something incredible was happening. Caleb was growing up. He was no longer just lying in the den. He was trying to crawl, then walk, clinging to the leader's fur. When the wolves carried off their prey, he didn't eat meat like they did. But they brought him berries, bark, even warm water they gathered from puddles. He laughed when the wolf cubs played with him, biting his fingers and chasing each other through the snow. One day, Caleb fell into a small ravine. One of the younger males jumped in following, putting his back up to help him out. Caleb didn't cry out. He looked up at him and howled quietly, as they did. It was the moment the pack accepted him, not as a baby in need of protection, but as their own. Caleb began to change. He was learning to survive, to sense danger, to listen to the wind, and recognize when strangers were nearby. He was no longer afraid of the cold. His body hardened, his movements became agile, and when coyotes passed nearby, he himself stepped between them and the wolf cubs. He was human, but everything about him was becoming closer to the beast. Not wild, but free. It was early in the morning. Far in the forest, a group of hikers got lost and called the rescue team. One of the rangers, scouring the area, noticed something strange in the snow. A chain of footprints, wolf paws. And next to them, small bare feet. At first he thought it was a joke, but the footprints were fresh. He followed them, And in the distance, among the trees, he saw the unbelievable. A child. Head in rags, long tangled hair, face smeared in earth. He was sitting next to a pack of wolves. The ranger didn't dare approach. He took out his binoculars. He saw a child stroking the she-wolf's face. How the wolf cub slept cuddled against him. No fear, no panic. It was Caleb. That same day, the parents arrived at the site. Emily rushed toward him, but as soon as she crossed the line, the wolves rose. They didn't growl, but they read the warning in their eyes. Caleb stepped between them. He didn't speak, just howled. But that howl was everything. Mom cried. Jason froze. He had to retreat. It wasn't until a day later, with the help of soothing smells, sounds, and familiar voices, that Caleb dared to approach. Slowly, like a wild animal. He touched his mother's hair, touched his father's fingers. And for the first time in months, he said the word, Mom. Caleb returned home, but he was no longer the same. His body was exhausted, but hardened. He was afraid of walls, bright lights, and loud noises. The doctor said, "He's alive, that's a miracle." But the real miracle was how he started to come back. He didn't speak. He barely ate. He would sit on the floor, curled up in a ball, and stare out the window for long periods of time. At night, he howled. Not out of fear, but out of longing. Emily sang him the same tune she used to sing every morning. Jason read him stories, and day after day, Caleb responded. First with a look, then a smile, then a word. 2 years passed. Caleb was learning to live among people again. He went to school. He played with other children. But there was a depth in his eyes that you rarely see in a human being. One winter day, they went as a family to the woods, to the place where it all happened. Caleb stood at the edge of the trees for a long time, and then he howled. Long, clear, like a wolf. And somewhere in the distance, there was an answer. He turned to his parents, and he said,
I'm home, but they're my family too.
It's been many years. Caleb grew up. His story traveled around the world. Newspapers, television programs, documentaries. People called him the Wolf Boy. But he never considered himself a wolf or a man to the end. He was a connecting bridge. He grew up kind, strong, attentive to nature. He avoided the noise of the city, loved snow and silence. He often went into the woods alone, and always returned with a special light in his eyes. He never told me what he heard in the forest. But one day, as an adult, he walked in the footsteps of his childhood, to the clearing where he had once played with wolves. And there, among the snow-covered trees, he saw them again, older, but remembered. The she-wolf came closest. She looked at him for a long time. He bent down, put his palm on her muzzle, just like when he was a child. No words, no growling. Just mutual recognition. Caleb realized his wild family had never disappeared. It lived in him, in every decision, in every movement, in every way of looking at the world. Sometimes people forget that they are part of nature. Caleb is a reminder.